Welcome everybody and welcome to this video about the political vision of the Mencius. In the Analect, we could observe different rules regarding politics. Well, we first have the sage, who is from the past and who is an ideal ruler. Then we have the king, who is invited to act as a true king, his minister, and the junzi, which is a gentleman, a man acting according benevolence, and it's opposed to the petty man, xiaozhen, and at the end we have the common people, min. In the Analects, the disciples of Confucius are invited to behave as junzi, and in fact, the king is going to govern the people by choosing a type of minister. So the king has to know how to make the difference between a junzi and a petty man when he chooses a minister. In the Analect, this is one of the ways to express that is to know people, zhezhen. In fact, behind this issue of knowing people, knowing which kind of people to appoint as a minister, there is an issue of trust, which is how to build the trust between the sovereign and his people. And for Confucius, when the ruler wants to govern, the most important is not food or to have a big army, but much more to be able to foster and to build up trust. Another way to speak about this in the Mencius is to speak about this issue about knowing people and knowing the hurt of the people. And this is why at the end of the Mencius, if a king is not able to rule as a genuine king, then the people is entitled to revolt. At the beginning of the Mencius, we can observe a tension between two logics, the logic of strength and the logic of morality. Several kings come to visit Mencius and ask him how to gain hegemony on unified China. They are worried because they think that their territory is too small to achieve that. And according to Mencius, to unify China is not a problem of the size of the territory, but much more of how the ruler behaves. According to Mencius, to unify China, it's mainly a moral issue. The king has to behave as a true king and to carry out a benevolent government. Concretely, this means to not push people too harshly, to keep taxes light and to let people do their farm work. For Mencius, it is a matter of letting the people being good and cultivate naturally their human relationship. If people can do farm work according to natural cycles, then filial piety, fraternity, sincerity, and truthfulness are going to grow. The problem often comes from the fact that rulers put too much pressure on their people and disrupt the natural cycles, not only with farming or economy, but also with human relationship. According to Mencius, at the root of the problem lies the king's behavior. Does the king want to practice a benevolent government? In Analect 2.1, Confucius explains that the true king rules by attraction, like the pole star. And Mencius is going to develop this idea. Farmers, craftsmen, strangers will be attracted by the good ruler. And part of being a good ruler is to be able to handle its own desires. The reason for the ruler to attract people will be his ability to provide a stable livelihood to his people. And in the Mencius, there is an ongoing conversation about providing a stable heart, which is the opposite of a heart always moving because of anxiety. To say it with other words, it means that if the ruler is able to manage his own desires, to have a stable heart, to not be moved by a desire for wealth or sex or food, he will be able to foster the conditions for the people to do so. So the more the ruler have a stable heart, the more he's going to help people to have a stable heart. And this is why in the Mencius, if a ruler puts too much pressure to satisfy his own desire on his people, well, he's trapping them because he's going to impose big taxes, and that will push people to crime. And there is an image of fish being trapped in a net. This perspective also explains why in the Mencius we have a conversation about different tax systems. Which kind of tax systems is fairer to people? And here in 3A3, three systems are discussed. The challenge is to find a balance between the needs of the people and the needs of the king and government. Another dimension of benevolent government is that it starts from setting up boundaries. When boundaries are not settled properly, people start to argue about what seems to be unfair to them. And in fact, in common life, boundaries as a way to respect other people, and for the king to respect his people. Clear boundaries avoid that only strength comes into play when there is a conflict. So, to summarize, for the Mencius, it's very important to unify China because it's a way to put an end to the ongoing conflict that we are going on. But a way to achieve that is first to not be worried about the side of the territory or about strength. The main issue is not here. The main issue is a moral issue. Rulers have to put a limit to their desires and to not seize all people's properties. And in order to display a benevolent government and to act as a true king, they can read or they can find example in history. So, for example, in the classics. To be a good ruler also implies a form of care for the most fragile people and a form of empathy between the ruler and his people. Several examples comes from the past, and that's why we can find this example in the five classics, in the Book of History or the Book of Odes, and very often in the Mencius, characters argue about examples from the past. And here there is one main change with the Analect, is that Mencius assumed the position of an advisor. He is not a sage ignorer like Confucius. He is in a position of being an advisor. And in fact, in Chinese history, that will become a very traditional way for intellectuals to interact with ruler. Thank you for watching this video, and I wish you a good day.